The Evergreen Show, taking your business from seed to sapling to towering giant. With your hosts, best-selling author and business growth experts Noah Fleming and Shawn Veltman. This is the only show that gives you proven, pragmatic, and immediately applicable business growth strategies every week in 15 minutes or less. Here's Noah and Shawn.
Well, hello, everybody. We're back, and welcome to another episode of The Evergreen Show. This is your host, Noah Fleming, with my co-host, Mr. Shawn Veltman. Shawn, give me the scoop, buddy. What's going on today? Where are you in the world? Tell me something pretty.
I am in gorgeous Calgary, Alberta. The mountains looming large in the background. It's a beautiful day, and I'm happy to be here. How about you, my road warrior friend?
Cold here in cold Ontario. Cold. Looking forward to a couple trips coming up next week, heading out to some client work, actually 3 client projects and engagements, one in Vegas. Then I'll be in California for 2 different events, one in Anaheim and one pretty close to where they had the mudslides down in Montecito, which was quite sad. They're still recovering out there, so my thoughts going out to everybody in that area. It looks just awful. Interesting note about that. One of the Tuesday tidbits that I wrote last year was called literally "The Bar Has Been Raised, the best customer service I've ever had." Do you remember that one?
I do. That was fantastic.
It was fantastic. And it told the story of a service experience I had at a place called the San Ysidro Ranch in Montecito. And really, unfortunately, that whole ranch, which has been there for many years, this fantastic restaurant, hotel, lodges, cottages, the works, pretty much half destroyed, which is incredibly heartbreaking. I sent an email there to the gentleman that served me at that restaurant that I wrote about, and I haven't heard back yet. So hopefully everybody there is doing well, but just really, really heartbreaking.
Oh, that is such a shame. It's brutal just watching how many areas are getting hit by so many different things. We talked about the fires in the summer. There was the flooding. We've got the mudslides right now. It's crazy.
You know, one of the things I've been working on over the past little while is these executive retreats where I'm going to take groups of executives on different retreats. And I've had some great interest in those. And, we're going to go to places like Disney, and we're going to talk about how to apply things to our businesses, what we liked, what we didn't like. We're going to go to Zappos headquarters and a few other places. And one of them that I really wanted to do was to take people to the San Ysidro Ranch, because it was such a fabulous experience from start to finish. So again, just really unfortunate. Hopefully they can get things sorted there. But anyways, enough about that. Let's get into things here. Let's get back to the Evergreen Show, and let's talk about today's topic. So we're going to talk about today something which is really important to all of us, especially as we talk about natural disasters and time. Time is the most finite resource that any of us have. I was reading Dan Pink's new book over the weekend. I don't know if you've read Dan Pink's new book yet, Shawn. It's called When: The Scientific Secrets of Perfect Timing. Have you had a chance to check that out yet?
I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I bought it just the other day, so I'm looking forward to going through it as soon as I can find the time.
Well, the nice thing about this latest book from Mr. Dan Pink is that it is nice and short. And so I was able to read the book just in about a 24-hour period in between all the time-intensive duties that my children bring to me on weekends. But really fascinating book, really takes a look at time and when is the right time to do things, the different science behind beginnings and middles and endings and all the stuff that we've talked about in relation to the customer experience. He does talk about a number of those things. He talks about the famous colonoscopy study, which we've talked about many times. But it got me thinking about my own time and the things that I'm investing in this year, personally, professionally, and everywhere else that can help me do the things I want to do or need to do and reduce the time that I'm spending on other things. And, you had a great example of this as something that you did for us in our company, which entirely relates to reading. But why don't you share with the audience what that was, and then we'll tie it back to this concept of time and give some tips here on how we can maximize the value of our time effectively as business leaders.
Sure. So, one of the great things about having a software development background is that you get to build cool things when the idea strikes. And so over the break, I was thinking a lot about time and how much time I waste looking for articles or blogs or books or anything that relates to ideas that I'm having, or concepts I want to broaden my reading in. So often, and I'm sure you do the same thing, Noah. We're thinking about a specific customer service problem, or we're thinking about what we've come across in sales management or in optimization there. And we want to read what other people have said about it and see the points we agree with, the points we disagree with, and really just kind of open up the mind and see what's out there in the broader world. But that can be hard, right? What happens when you Google customer service article?
Well, you get loads and loads of crap, and in amongst the crap, you get some really good gold, like my stuff. Shameless plug.
Exactly. And so, one of the biggest challenges that I've had is going through my vast library of books, both physical and digital, going through a list of 50 or 100 blogs that I follow fairly regularly, and trying to find things that are relating to what's important to me at the moment. And so over the break, it hit me, and I thought, well, wouldn't it be nice if I could, be reading an article, if I like the article, find others that are of similar quality, topics, everything like that, from a select corpus or a select collection, right? I don't want to Google for customer service article. What I want to do is search through a collection that I think is probably already pretty good and find the ones that are most relevant there. So I got to play with some really cool machine learning things that, we've done a little bit of for clients, but this helped me kick it up to the next level. And what it ended up building for us is a way for us to get the most similar articles to ones that we're reading, and then to use some machine learning to summarize those. So we can very quickly see a list of 5 or 10 very similar articles, get the highlights out of that, and then decide if we want to dive in and drill down and really get all of the details from any one of them. So it's just been a fantastic tool. It saved me many hours already in the first couple of weeks of this year by cutting out the search for interesting or relevant material.
Yeah, I think one of the really cool things that the tool does, at least that I'm really enjoying about it, is it does really, bring the quality right to the top. And so I don't exactly understand how machine learning works, except that you seem to have it figured out, and it does seem to really find things that either match the sentiment of articles we like or the topics. And I love that. And I have to admit, it's saving a ton of time. And I didn't believe it would at first, but it's working tremendously. So bravo to you on that. Now, why are we talking about this when we talk about time? I think the reason that we're talking about this is because time is such an irreplaceable finite asset that we have to find ways to maximize the value of our time. And so, it always brings me to the question of, where could people be investing money, dollars? We were talking about before the show about washing windows, right? And my wife wanted to wash some windows, and I wanted to hire someone because there were other things I needed to get done that day. And so this is an investment we could make. But we see this in organizations all the time, where time is being spent on things that could be better outsourced, that they could build tools to help them optimize, that they could hire outside experts to come in and help them with. And there just seems to be sometimes this frugal attitude about spending money in areas that would help really dramatically reduce the amount of time spent on these tasks and allow those organizations, those executives, and those people to do things that really matter, that really generate an impact. And what's your experience in this?
I think you're dead on there. And what you said about being really frugal with money, the flip side of that is that a lot of people, a lot of companies are really profligate with their time, and they feel nothing about wasting their own time, but they will be working very hard to quote unquote save money. I remember many, many years ago, I was working for a public company, and it was a small startup. It was only worth about, $40-50 million. But we were doing some really cool stuff. There's about 10 of us in it. And I was really young at the time. And I remember I spent half a day trying to find the best deal on some equipment that we needed. And I got just rung up, and rightfully so, by my boss. And he said, Shawn, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
So, I never like hearing that, but why?
It's so funny. Well, first of all, your boss called you an idiot, which is great. But my mentor, my business coach, he used to often say, and some people found this quite pretentious when he would say this, but he would say things that, like, the cheapest airline ticket for most people is the first class ticket. It's the absolute cheapest ticket. And you would look at him and say, well, no, like, I can't afford a first class ticket. But then you'd watch these people spend, 2-3 weeks, hours at a time, scouring the internet, trying to find a promo code, a discount, a cheaper ticket, waiting for things to drop. And there's all this time spent in this pursuit to try and save a few bucks, when in reality, all of that time could have been better spent doing something else. And so I think your boss was right, Shawn. You were being a bit of an idiot.
I really was. I was looking at a strict dollar figure rather than the value I would have brought by working on other areas, right? So yes, I was able to save a few $100s, but I probably cost the company tens of thousands of dollars because I neglected other areas. And it was a really telling moment for me. And a couple years later, when I was doing much better, I started to really apply that philosophy. And as you said, don't wash windows on your weekend. You and I don't ever bill out by the hour, but if you look at it, we're not doing $10 an hour work when we're in companies. And so if at home we're doing $10 an hour work, we're wasting our hours. We could be spending that learning, growing, relaxing, enjoying, rather than toiling away. And spending time rather than spending dollars is crazy.
Now, I do want to make the distinction here because I think it's important. So first of all, again, the pretentious comment possibly about why the first class ticket is the cheapest, and you shouldn't be washing windows on weekends. If you love to wash windows, by all means, wash windows, right? There's a distinction here between the enjoyment of a pursuit versus spending your time while trying to save a few bucks or cut some corners when you could be spending that time doing something more valuable. The weekend example is maybe I want to spend that time with my kids. Maybe I want to go for a hike. Maybe I want to do this. I want to do that. And so you have to make this judgment call. Is this where I should be spending my time? Or could I make an investment here? Now, we've both seen executives, CEOs, presidents of large organizations, again, toiling away and spending insane amounts of time on things that they could easily get help with, that they could easily speed up the process. We've built tools for companies that dramatically reduce the amount of time spent generating reports or in the way that their process is completed. And again, these are all great examples of that. So, my challenge this week, Shawn, as we come to the 13-minute mark, would be to look at your own business and to ask yourself, where are the areas that you're spending a lot of time? And ask yourself, is that time well spent? Or could you invest to save a little time and use that time elsewhere? Are there tools that you could build that would help you? Do you need a better process that would help you, again, reduce the amount of time spent so you could focus elsewhere? Again, could you bring in outside experts to help you rather than trying to figure it out yourself? Could a little bit of money be spent in certain areas that would have a dramatic impact somewhere else? Shawn, do you want to add to my challenge?
I think that's a great challenge. I'll put a little bit of a focusing point on just a couple things you said there, because I think the distinction is probably worth it. One is, take a look at what you're doing through the days and see if you can assign a dollar value to the types of activities you're doing. So if you had to hire somebody else to do that, what would it cost to get those things done? And compare that to the work that you do best, that's the highest and best value that you're bringing. And what I think you'll find is very often, you're doing whatever it is, $100, $200, $1,000 an hour work, when you're working at your best, and yet you're spending a lot of time doing $20 an hour work. And so if you can identify those areas, that's a great place to really do what Noah said before and figure out how you can reduce the amount of time you're spending doing low value work, whether it's by creating better systems, whether it's by investing in tools, whether it's by outside hiring, whatever it is, finding those areas and eliminating them, spending more of your time doing the highest value work it's the greatest investment you can make.
Well, I like the challenge. I think it's important to be thinking about at this time of the year, just as we get going here. These are all things you need to be asking yourself. You need to be looking at these things, and you need to be constantly asking, is this the best use of your time? Now, one more plug going out to Dan Pink's book, because I think it's a fabulous read. It really got me thinking about these things. Shawn, I know you're probably sick of me talking about this book, but it was great. It's worth checking out. I love Dan's stuff. Dan gave a raving endorsement to the Customer Loyalty Loop last year, which was my book. So again, I'm a big fan of Dan's work. It's always fascinating. He's a great storyteller. Really awesome stuff. Shawn, anything else you want to add before we close this puppy out?
No, I think we gave a very useful challenge here. I hope everybody takes part in it and, really take a look at your days and find the areas where you can invest in yourself by cutting out the low value work and spending more time doing what you do best.
All right, everybody. Well, that's another episode of the Evergreen Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate the support, the comments we get, the questions, the topics that you send us. As always, if you enjoyed the show, feel free to send it on to your colleagues, your peers, your coworkers. Make sure to subscribe to get the Tuesday tidbits from my website, noahfleming.com. And if you have any questions or need to get in touch with Shawn and I, just hit the contact button on my website, and you can do that pretty easily. All right, we will see you next week, folks. Ciao.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to join us each and every week for another great episode of The Evergreen Show with your hosts, Noah Fleming and Shawn Veltman. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review, and we'll catch you next time on The Evergreen Show.